Alice Ripper was 101 years old when she died. For years, she stayed in a rented, run-down studio apartment in Manhattan. And she retired at the age of 55. Her annual salary was just $3,000, around $3,000. And she didn't do too well in her job. Though she had a law degree, she was never ever promoted in her job. She didn't spend too much of money on herself, even the furniture that she had in her house. She never tried to replace them even though they had worn out. She didn't even subscribe to any newspaper. She used to go to a local library, to read those newspapers. Imagine the surprise of the president of a famous US university in New York when he learns that the same lady, Alice Ripper, leaves her entire estate as a will to this university, and that was worth 22 million US dollars. This lady had never studied in that university, and the president never knew her or that name. Now, how come in the world a lady who was leading a life of a retired, I'm saying retired in the sense professional, who was not working, was able to generate a fortune of 8 figures? The answer is, she was living her life day over day for her entire lifetime. She did it day over day for her entire lifetime. And how she did it? When she retired at the age of 55, she had $5,000. She invested that money in one of those blue chip companies. In 7 years, 1950, that money became $10,000. She reinvested the new money she found. All the dividends she generated over the years, she kept on investing. She didn't encash any of the money that came out of her, those shares. When she died, and her shares had split enough number of times to generate 1,28,000 shares worth $7.5 million US. Now, typically when people tend to grow old, they run out of finances even before they come to end, before they reach end of their lives, right? In case of this lady, she was building her fortune, building her wealth with every passing day that she was living on earth. So when it comes to law of process and when it comes to finances, this lady was a leading example of not only understanding the finance but also implementing it, following the law of process. Fellow Toastmasters and friends, I'm here to talk about another leadership law, a sequel to my previous P2 and P3. I'm going to talk about law of process. Becoming a leader is more like investing successfully in the stock market. If you tend to become a leader in a day's time, you're going to be utterly disappointed. It takes a lifetime to reach any such height. So that is the law of process. We can see the effect of law of process in our own world. Meet Sachin Tendulkar, who has been practicing the law of process for over 25 years, doing the same damn thing for years over years. As a Toastmaster, let me give you another example of Demosthenes. He was one of the greatest orator in ancient Greece. And you know how he used to practice his speech? He used to recite his verses by keeping pebbles in his mouth, and he used to talk over the uproar of the ocean's waves. And the biggest point is, he was born with a speech impediment. So ladies and gentlemen, nothing is impossible. Let's talk about the famous American president, Theodore Roosevelt. He is still known as one of those person with a man of action and a proponent of leading a very vigorous life. I mean, he was into boxing, he was into judo, he was into kickback, challenging horse riding, he was into strenuous hiking. A French ambassador once said later in his life that once both these gentlemen were walking in the woods and they reached a stream, water was very deep. Roosevelt strips down and he expects the dignitary also to do the same. So nothing was impossible for this president. This president was a man of great stamina and enthusiasm. After his presidency, while he was preparing to give his speech, he was shot at with a bullet. He still insisted to deliver his 1-hour speech before allowing himself to go to a hospital. This president was not born this way. He was born into a rich American family, but he had debilitating asthmatic attack when he was born. He was very weak. He had poor eyesight. He had all the medical problems that one can have. And his parents were not sure whether he would be alive for long. At the age of 12, his father tells him, "Son, without a body, you cannot go long. Your mind cannot take you for too long." So, Roosevelt started working not only as mind but also in body, following the law of process, and eventually he reached. The rest is history. US attained amazing success, spectacular success, I would say, during his tenure. Superpower in his tenure. Panama Canal between Atlantic and Pacific was built. He was instrumental in that. Peace was struck between Russia and Japan. He won the Nobel Prize for this initiative. When his leadership was questioned later, he campaigned and he was re-elected by the highest majority of votes that any US president has ever won in the history of the United States, even till now. In late 90s, president dies while he was sleeping. The then Vice President Marshall says death had to take him away while he was sleeping, because if he had been alive, there would have been a fight between Roosevelt and death. And finally, when the body was taken away, a book was found under his bed. Fellow Toastmasters, he was still striving to learn and improve, though he was re-elected President of the United States. That is the law of process for you. If you want to be a leader, the good news is you can. Everybody has the capability, but it cannot be achieved overnight. You need to have perseverance. Leadership cannot be attained in a day. It has to be attained over a lifetime. That's the law of process. You cannot absolutely ignore the law of process. Thank you very much.